Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Beyond ELA, Digital Books Across Your Curriculum. I'm Heather Booth, the audio editor at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Today's slide presentation was included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download it, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the link located there. You can also download the slides by typing the URL on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we encourage you to submit any of your questions for our panelists today in the Q&A box. You'll find this box on the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. If you have a question or if you need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will leave some time at the end of the program to address these questions with our panelists. Booklist offers closed captioning on all of its webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select Show or Hide Subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Caption Settings. And finally, Booklist expects all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. Anyone who violates this standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. We have a wonderful program, so without further ado, let's meet our panelists. Today, we will be joined by Sarah Wilsman, digital content librarian. Reading is Sarah's only hobby. She has her BA in English from Kenyon College and her MLIS from Kent State University. Before coming to Overdrive, Sarah managed youth services departments in public libraries where her favorite part of the job was collection development. As a digital librarian, she loves connecting students with great books. We have Catherine Asenik, digital content librarian. Catherine's love of libraries started in her middle school book club when her school librarian made them an ice cream waffle breakfast for their discussion of the book, Everything on a Waffle. She started working for her public library as a page when she was just 16 and worked there while she earned her AYA English education degree from Baldwin Wallace University. After that, she moved to Toledo, where she worked as a children's librarian, earned her MLIS with a K-12 licensure from Kent State University. Most recently, she's worked as a youth services librarian in Cleveland Heights before working as a digital content librarian for Overdrive. With Overdrive, she works with schools in Ohio, Michigan, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Pennsylvania. When Catherine has free time, she enjoys reading and making princess dresses for her daughter, Penelope. Also joining us today is Franklin Markle, the digital content librarian. Franklin grew up in the wonderful world of fantasy, spending time with demigods, sorcerers, and the occasional superhero. After realizing he would probably never do real magic, he decided to do the next best thing: spread the magic of books he loved. Franklin received his Bachelor of Library Science and MLIS with a focus in youth services from Clarion University. He went on to work at Ford City Public Library and then Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh as a youth services librarian before landing at Overdrive, where he continues to spread the magic of books to all the schools he serves as a digital content librarian. And our final panelist is Lana Richardson. Lana is an account manager helping schools support their young readers both in and out of the classroom. As a lifelong book lover, she spent the last 2 years at Overdrive using this passion to help educators cultivate a culture where reading is accessible and fun for all. Thank you so much for joining us. The floor is yours.
Okay, slide. I will begin. As Heather said, I'm Sarah Wilsman. I'm a librarian at Overdrive. First of all, I apologize for my cold. It's been a long winter here in Cleveland, Ohio, where Overdrive is located. I've been helping schools on both coasts build their digital collections for the last 6 years. The first thing that I want to talk about in terms of using digital formats for your classroom is the idea of equality versus equity. I believe digital supports equity, and I will tell you why. Giving each student a paperback of the same title, like this in this slide, is equality, where every student is given the exact same copy of the book. In this case, it's Crossover by Kwame Alexander. Next slide. Equity is when you provide the same book to students in different formats. This way, students have access to the format that works best for them. You can differentiate their experience, whether it's listening to an audiobook while on the bus, reading a graphic novel for extra context clues, or reading the ebook with accommodations, either by using the dyslexic font or in dark mode for more contrast. Once a title is downloaded, they are device agnostic and are accessible 24/7. A student can start something on their Chromebook and finish on their phone with the Sora app. No more lost books. Often, schools can purchase classroom titles in favorable lending models that allow students access to the title for 90 days. Titles in this lending model appear in Sora as assignments and cannot be returned early, but also do not count toward their checkout limit. Slide. I am going to talk about ELA a little bit before we move on to other classroom uses for high school. I mentioned that there are favorable lending models for classroom use, both for ebooks and audiobooks. These lending models are affordable and allow for concurrent users. Public domain titles like The Great Gatsby are digitized and inexpensive. Many classics are available and affordable in digital. Be sure to include audiobook versions of the ELA titles. You don't need to often purchase as many as you do with the ebooks, but it's nice to supplement the collection with some audiobook versions. They're engaging, and a good narrator can make a book come alive. For example, Sissy Spacek reads To Kill a Mockingbird, and Reese Witherspoon reads the follow-up, Go Set a Watchman. Both are excellent on audio. Librarians at Overdrive can help you refresh the canon with read-alikes for classics. You can publish lists like if you like The Outsiders, check out for extensions or for extra credit. We're happy to help you build those collections and to publish them so the students can find them. Also, to accommodate non-native speakers, many classics are available in languages other than English. The House on Mango Street is available in Spanish, for example. Ask your Overdrive librarian for popular translations to accommodate your students. And this is true both on the education and the public library side. All the librarians at Overdrive work together and share resources. The Resource Center in Marketplace, which is our shopping and administrative platform, has lists created by Overdrive librarians. There are lists of American, British, and world literature classics. Or you can send your DCL, what we call a librarian at Overdrive, a list of your ELA titles, and we can create a cart for you that contains both ebook and audiobook formats that are tailored to your budget. Just give us all the information and let us work our magic, and then you get to decide what you purchase for your collection. Next slide. History can be a great place to introduce digital. Whether you publish lists in Sora for assignments, books for about World War II, for example, if you have a unit on memoirs, or if you use narrative nonfiction as an extension of a topic, like the Holocaust, or you give middle schoolers access to young reader versions of titles like Hidden Figures or Unbroken, which was written by my college roommate. I'm in the dedication of the young reader version because I helped her with different examples. Playing the audiobook of a title like A Long Way Gone, read by the author, can be powerful in the classroom. It's fair use to purchase one copy of an audiobook and play it in a classroom. We've cleared that use. This one starts, my high school friends have begun to suspect I haven't told them the full story of my life. The author of A Long Way Gone reads this in his beautiful accent, and it's really a powerful experience. You can listen to samples of audiobooks in Marketplace before purchasing, and make sure that you enjoy the reader who reads the book to you. Next slide. If you need STEM titles right now, you're in luck. The Science and Nature sale goes until April 12th and has up to 50% off titles on topics like conservation, climate change, animals, and chemistry, to name a few. As you can see on this slide, the layouts of these titles are beautiful and digital. Students can zoom in on spreads and annotate and export their notes in Sora. Again, you can publish topical lists for subjects, or you can suggest extension titles for a deeper dive on a topic. The classroom subject tile in the Resource Center has STEM lists on subjects like biology, chemistry, earth science, robotics, coding, and math. I published a collection of books on the eclipse in one of my large collections, and it's circulated really well this month. Next slide. There are digital resources in many languages other than English. The Resource Center has lists that are vetted by native speakers of these languages. The Spanish collection, probably our most robust, is broken down by grade band and by format. And we differentiate by whether it's a popular translation of a title or an original work in that language. Chinese is separated into simplified or traditional, and we have audiobooks in both Cantonese and Mandarin. Some languages, like Vietnamese, do not have a lot of titles available in digital yet, but you can always ask your Overdrive team for what your community needs, because we're adding LOT or load content all the time, and we like giving our publishers feedback for what schools are looking for. Next slide. My final slide is on CTE content. Often this is a separate budget item, so talk to curriculum directors and let them know that Sora has more than just choice reading titles. The Resource Center has lists for career and technical education that support cosmetology, automotive, and culinary programs, to name a few. There are also digital test prep books from Kaplan, Barron's, Princeton Review, and others for the SAT, GED, and for AP tests. I hope I've convinced you to consider adding digital resources to your busy high school students. Digital is so portable and accessible, especially when they have their AirPods in their ears 24/7. Now I'm going to turn you over to my colleague, Catherine, who will talk to you about using digital in younger classrooms. Take it away, Catherine.
Next slide, please. I'm Catherine, and like Sarah mentioned, I'm going to talk about using digital and trade books in elementary school. The first thing that I wanted to mention was our supersonic phonics and decodable package. We all know about the push for science of reading in schools in the last few years. Now Sora has a simultaneous use collection of phonics and decodable titles available. There are over 270 titles separated into 13 reading levels. Your digital content librarian can curate the levels to allow for easy skill progression and to make it easy for your youngest students to find these titles. One of the things I get asked all the time is, can our youngest students even use Sora? Yes, I have a 4, almost 5-year-old, and she goes on Sora all the time, listens to her books, and is able to do it independently. So it really is a platform for all ages. All the titles in this package are simultaneous use, which means there are no holds, no waits, and no limit to how many students can check out the same title. What is especially important with this youngest group. And because it is through Sora, students have 24-hour access, 365-day access from school and home. This allows for extra practice outside of the school and keeping up skills to avoid summer slide. The books in this package include a variety of topics from fiction to nonfiction and a variety of illustrations and real photographs. There really is something for everyone. The publishers Jump and Bearport have free teacher resources that go along with the collection. Packages are for 6 or 12 months, and your prices are based on enrollment. If you are interested in this, reach out to your account manager. Next slide, please. So Sarah gave some great examples of how digital can be used, but what about why it should be used? Oh, you might have some pushback from your teachers saying, oh, Sora doesn't have our textbooks. How are we going to use it in our STEM classes? Well, along with scientific text, fiction and narrative books are also very important to learning about science, technology, engineering, and math. From titles like The Very Hungry Caterpillar, which teaches the days of the week and how a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, to General Relativity for Babies, which allowed even me, someone who is definitely not scientific minded, to understand the basic concepts of this very complicated subject. Fiction and narrative books also have a place in STEM classes. First of all, these books can provide real-world context for students to help them fully understand the concepts, like how trees help to each other to communicate about dangers like drought, or how they can share nutrients with seedlings. This information is from the book Listen to the Language of the Trees. These titles help make complex topics easier to understand and more approachable, like how a small particle can't move where it wants because of the warp created by an object with greater mass. See, I understood it. Reading fiction explores skills like problem solving, like how math-loving 11-year-old Kemi Carter deals with an asteroid coming to Earth and the probability of everything. I also teach skills like creativity, collaboration, and critical thinking skills important to STEM studies. Stories like Shanti Saves Her Money, a story about Shanti who learns how to save her money to have enough to ride the monster ride, are available in a read-along format. These are stories that combine the text and audio, allowing your youngest students to read these books independently or provide extra support to those students who may struggle with reading. Because how can a student understand the concept if they can't understand the words they are reading? Other titles that are great for the STEM classroom include Classified, the picture book about Mary Golda Ross, the Cherokee engineer who worked with the top secret skunk works division of Lockheed. How We Got to the Moon is an oversized guide to the people and technology of the moon landing. And What's Inside a Flower teaches the life cycle of plants by taking readers on a nature walk. Next slide, please. All fiction is rooted in real experiences, real relationships, real conflict, and real character traits. This helps in the social studies classroom immensely. Fiction titles can be used to practice making predictions, understanding motivations, understanding conflicts, role-playing, and immersing ourselves in a setting or scenario, skills that easily translate into social studies standards like citizenship skills and post-social skills. Adding in narrative nonfiction, these titles also explore the different perspectives and experiences, demonstrating how perspective has implications for the reader's understanding of events, characters, and themes. These skills can translate to how students analyze and understand primary and secondary sources. Titles like these can also offer a more holistic view of events, allowing for a better balance between the facts of an event and the human characteristics of the individuals involved, making it more real and allowing students to empathize with and have a better understanding of the motivations of real people in history. Fiction also contains information about people and relationships, emerging values, the effects of institutions on personal behavior, and lessons about time periods and diverse cultural backgrounds. Attack of the Black Rectangles is about Mac, who fights against censorship at the school. A very timely topic today and is a great way to show kids how they can use their voice to be heard as an engaged citizen in society. History Smashers is a series that works to help students learn the real facts about different periods in time. With sidebars, illustrations, and scenes drawn as graphic novels, this will engage your readers. Loyalty is set in the American Revolution. Noah goes from young loyalist turned British spy after his father is killed. This book offers a view of American history not always explored. Noah has to forge his own understanding of right and wrong and finally determine where his loyalty lies. Keepin' a Book is a picture book that explores the history and tradition that surrounds the story of the first Thanksgiving in the view of the Weechuam people who helped the Pilgrims. This story is a good addition to any collection working to share Indigenous perspectives. Stand Up tells the story of 10 historic female figures who changed the world by standing up for what's right, including contemporary and historical figures. This book depicts both famous and unsung Black women who took a stand and made the world a better place for future generations. I'm sure you've heard of Choosing Brave, as it was a big award winner. This is the picture book of a biography of the mother of Emmett Till and how she channeled grief over her son's death into a call to action for the civil rights movement. This story offers a testament to the power of love, the bond of motherhood, and one woman's unwavering advocacy for justice. Something Happened to My Dad is in the Something Happened book series that present and explain sensitive and important events happening in communities around the United States and around the world. Something Happened to My Dad is specifically about a young girl named Carmen as she struggles with her father's detainment due to his legal status. And finally, The War That Saved My Life is about 10-year-old Ada, who escapes abuse in the war by following her brother when he is set out of London during World War II. Students will cheer for steadfast Ada as she triumphs over despair. Digital is a great way to expand reading in the STEM and social studies classrooms. They offer different perspectives, and then there are different types of learning model and data that come with the books as well. I'm going to pass it now to Franklin, who's going to talk about different formats. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Catherine. So yeah, we've heard how ebooks and audiobooks are great for increasing access and equity and how they can be used across curriculum and not just ELA. But there are other forms of digital content that can be just as useful and can help you see a huge difference in the response that you see from your students. Things like graphic novels, magazines, and even manga can put a fresh spin on old topics and really get kids excited and engaged. Next slide, please. Starting with magazines. So magazines, of course, cover a ton of different subjects, a ton of different classroom subjects too. And they can be used from anything from supplementing classroom reading to researching to prepping for debates. Really, the sky's your limit when it comes to magazines. There's a ton that you can do with them. What's even better is you can actually access no-wait, simultaneous use digital magazines through Sora. So you can actually have all of your students read all the same articles all at the same time. A few different subjects you might use these in are history with titles like Ancient History Magazine, National Geographic Magazine. Current events, we do have all of the different Time magazines right now. So we have Time, Time for Kids, and Time International. Science and STEM fields with titles like Popular Science, Popular Mechanics, New Scientists, etc. Of course, English Lit, so that ELA component with The Writer, Poets and Writers magazine, and more. And then we even have several foreign language magazines as well for those foreign language classes or for those who are English as a second language students. So recently, I actually heard, sorry, back one slide. So recently, I just want to share this example really quick. I heard from a school partner who actually uses our magazine package in their science classes to discuss articles all together. So they'll pick an article together, they'll read it together, and then they'll discuss it. So again, there's a ton of different options and uses for magazines in the classroom. Next slide, please. Okay, so moving on to comics and graphic novels. These can be used much the same way as magazines with research and supplemental reading, but they also come with their own added bonuses. Graphic novels are really engaging and approachable in ways that traditional texts sometimes are not, especially for those who are struggling readers. They can offer content of interest with manageable bite-sized texts, and they can even act in a similar capacity to high-low titles. For ELA, graphic novels are great because they can alleviate confusion over difficult language. By adding this visual component, they can help students decipher that language that they're unfamiliar with. Plus, there are just so many graphic novel adaptations of classroom titles. Think anything from Shakespeare plays, The Giver, 1984, To Kill a Mockingbird. If you use it in your classroom, there's probably a graphic novel for it. Beyond ELA, there are a ton of fun and exciting nonfiction titles in different STEM fields and in different history subjects. For example, They can be used to explore commonly taught historical events like the Civil War, the moon landing, civil rights, without requiring your students to kind of stare down that wall of text in a textbook. Plus, there's also room for new lessons when it comes to graphic novels and comics. Things like projects focused around dialogue and scene study, crafting their own graphic novel on a historical subject or a STEM subject, or even just comparing and contrasting a graphic novel to a traditional text. It can bring a whole new layer of interest to your classroom. Next slide, please. And then finally for manga, this one I know is kind of a tough sell for teachers particularly, but I promise integrating manga can really add a niche but useful tool set to the classroom. Manga is known for its really expressive imagery, which has been shown to help students really connect to characters, their feelings, and their actions. There's even been some cool research around how this imagery has unique benefits for students on the autism spectrum. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but I did link a really cool article on that, and I really suggest checking that out. It's really neat. Beyond just its imagery, integrating a format like manga with roots in a foreign language can add a window into new cultures and ways of thinking that maybe your students haven't been exposed to before. Plus, just like with graphic novels, you can find plenty of classic adaptations and even several really good science and history titles that you can use in very similar ways with integrating into new lesson plans and the like. So that's actually it for me. So I'm going to be passing it over to Lana for a demonstration.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to be sharing a Sora demonstration. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I now have Sora open in my web browser. Sora is also available as an app that can be downloaded onto any student's device. And when we first open up Sora, we see the Explore page where we can see some curated collections that are available to be browsed. If we click into the collection, we can see the titles available, and it's as easy as clicking borrow on a title, and it'll open right up for you. So I have borrowed this audiobook, and we can navigate by clicking play, and it will read it aloud to us. We can navigate forward and backwards 15 seconds, and we can adjust the playback speed to be slower or faster. A sleep timer is available, so we can turn this on so the audiobook will play to us until and it'll automatically shut off. And then we can also bookmark certain locations. And if I go to my bookmark list, I can see the one I just placed. And we can also scroll along through the title. We also have the option of clicking on the book to renew the title if it's available and return the title early. This navigated me to my shelf where I can see all of the titles that I have checked out currently on loan. So I have To Kill a Mockingbird checked out, and we can see that it is downloaded onto my device to read offline when I don't have Wi-Fi, and it's due in 8 days, as well as my progress in the book. And we can open up this book to see what an ebook looks like to navigate through. We can see a few things here. First, that I changed the background of the book to be a different lighting appearance that might be easier on the eyes. I can change it back to the original or dark or high contrast mode. Additionally, I can change the text to be larger. We even have some accessibility sizes, as well as the font can be changed to open dyslexic font as well. And I'll go back to the publisher's default. And we can see here that I've highlighted a certain section. So we do that by just holding and clicking on a section. We can highlight and make notes. I can navigate by clicking my keyboard or by clicking my mouse to navigate the pages. And I can change it to be a single page or double page like a book. And we can again bookmark certain pages. And when we go to the bookmarks in an ebook, we can see where we've bookmarked, but also all the notes and highlights that we've made throughout the book. And lastly, we can hold down and click on a word to define the word. If I close this book and go to my home page, I'll again see those titles that I have currently checked out, as well as any titles that an administrator, a teacher, a librarian has assigned directly to my Sora account. When I'm assigned a title, I don't need to do a thing but log into Sora and it will pop up right here for me to be able to access very easily. And I'll also be able to see my progress in the book. We can see here the recent note that I just made on this title, as well as the word I just defined. As we can see here, any notes and highlights that are made in certain books will remain in the student's Sora account even when the book is returned. If we click further to see all, we can actually export these notes into a PDF, a CSV, Google Drive. On my shelf, we see these books that I have loaned to me, but we can also see any titles that I have on hold, when the hold was placed, and about how long I have until that hold will be available for me to borrow. And we can see lists. So I've made this list here, want to read. When I'm scrolling through Sora and I see titles that I do want to read, I just don't have the time to borrow it right now, we can add that to this list. So if I go to the Explore page, I see this title I want to read, I don't have time, I can click Add to List, want to read. Lastly, on the Me tab, we have my avatar, my user, and we can see my reading statistics. So this is a custom date range. I did it from the start of the school year until now, and we can see all of my different reading statistics. We can also see all time and today. We also have these achievement badges in Sora. That's a fun way to gamify the app for students, or really encourage students to read, different subjects or genres, as well as encourage them to read, a certain number of minutes. And then this menu here is our settings menu, where we can see I have different library cards for all these different libraries. So students can actually add multiple libraries to Sora so they can explore the different titles that are available in all these different collections, as well as different other settings like dyslexic font, changing the app to be weighted towards the bottom of the letters, high contrast mode for the whole app. We can change the language and some more settings here as well as notification settings. And of course, we can sign out or ask for help with Sora here. That is the end of my demo, and I'm going to ask for the next slide to be shared with some information about how to contact us, and then I will pass it over to Heather for any questions that you guys may have. So this is where you can contact us to get in touch with us to explore Sora. I see a question from Russell. Are students able to request titles through the app that the library does not currently have? I can answer this live here. No, students can't request certain titles in the Sora app itself, because the app will not show students titles that they don't have accessible to them. That way, educators or administrators can control what students are seeing in Sora. Some things that I work with my schools on is setting up a Google or a Microsoft form to capture those requests. But the app won't show any titles that the administrators haven't made available to their students. So they're only seeing titles that are deemed appropriate for them.
That seems like a really thoughtful setup. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for asking the question. So as we wait for more questions to roll in, I have some. I'm wondering, there are so many opportunities within this app, within this program, and it seems like it could be overwhelming. So how would you suggest a librarian look to start with a program like this?
Definitely. I would encourage the librarian to reach out to Sora, who will get them in touch with their account manager and their account team. Your account manager really is an expert into, the different types of setups and accounts that are available to you. So I'd recommend getting in touch with them, and they will, help walk you through the whole process and stay with you through that process of getting things started.
Thank you. Yeah, and it sounds like all of you have such great ideas for how to use that once they do. Um, we have a
I
question.
was I was
Oh,
going to
sorry, go ahead.
interject real fast
Yeah.
before you move on to the next one, Heather, that a good place to start too can be an ELA list. So if you get it to your account manager, we can run things through and see what matches we have and if it's a good fit for you for digital formats.
Great. So we have a question here from Amanda, who wonders if the school or the librarian has already purchased an ebook file from another platform. Are they able to import that or access that through Sora?
I can answer this question. So it really depends on what the titles are. Sometimes we have the option, if we have the titles in our catalog, you can work with your account manager to duplicate those titles in Sora, basically moving them over to Sora. So that was something that I would recommend reaching out to your specific account manager about, and they can walk you through that.
Thank you. So I wanted to touch on something that Franklin had mentioned about using magazines. I love the idea of everybody in the classroom sharing the reading of a magazine article and just introducing that visual literacy and those alternate formats. I wondered, Franklin, if you had anything else you wanted to share about the magazine collection, or ways that you've seen teachers and librarians use that for both information literacy as well as supplementing classroom instruction.
Yeah, so our magazine package right now has over 200 titles in it that span different grade bands from elementary school, middle school, high school. And we're always adding new titles, so that's constantly going to be growing. We have titles, like I mentioned, in a ton of different subjects, not just like in curricular subjects, but we have plenty of like pleasure reading titles and hobby titles, things like dirt biking or knitting or cooking magazines, all kinds of stuff in there. So there's a ton of different uses for them in and out of the classroom, whether or not again, like I shared, you want to all read the same article at the same time, or maybe you want to have students find articles, prepare a short like presentation on them and share it to the class, or if you just want to provide them for your kids to use outside of school for their hobbies and learning how to cook more or learning how to knit. So there's a ton in there. It's always growing. And we also will always like consider recommendations and see if we can get some titles in there that you might want.
I'll
Yeah.
also add that new titles are reviewed before they go
Yes.
in the collection for appropriateness. And we split them into 3 groups: elementary school, middle school, high school. And while we do that, it is always up to you where they end up. So if you see something in the elementary school, you want only middle school, high school to have access, you can change that. Vice versa. If there's something in high school you want your middle schoolers to have, that's available too. As well as if you don't want a title in your collection, you can weed it, no problem.
Yes, thank you, Catherine. And we do, anytime we add new titles, we do also provide a preview before they're added to the collection, so you can decide all that beforehand.
Yeah,
And I
think
was going to stress too, even for the younger students, that most state testing is going digital now. So the more practice they have interacting with digital resources, even like a short format magazine article, the better off they'll perform. I know the 3rd grade test is going digital. So that's just another way to practice.
Oh, we have a great question, kind of jumping off of the magazine question. So with magazines, you mentioned that everyone can read the same article, access the same magazine. Is it also possible to do that for your book collection?
It depends on the lending model we get from the publisher. So like magazines, the phonics package that I talked about, comics are all available as simultaneous use. We also have publishers that offer simultaneous book use outside of that. So if you are interested in, say, like you need juvenile nonfiction about animals, your digital content librarian can create a collection for you. We also have a lending model we call MacU or Overdrive Max. These are concurrent use books. So for example, all the Diary of a Wimpy Kid are available for 100 checkouts concurrent use, which means for that 100 checkouts you purchase, up to 100 students can check it out all at the same time. And then our class set model, are available at a lower price, so you can purchase as many copies as you need. Again, that they can just check out at the same time.
Is there a way to access the lists of those that would have concurrent use or be available in classroom sets if people want to check Sora's availability against what their curriculum might be offering right now?
Use us.
Fantastic.
Give us your curriculum list. We have a tool in the back end that we can use to price those out very quickly for you. So send it to your Sora team, and we'll take care of it.
Yeah, we'll
That's
make
great
your
to hear.
budget stretch as far as we can.
That's great to hear. Every time I host a webinar with Overdrive and with Sora, I'm always my heart is warmed at the lengths that you folks will all go to make the process as easy and as enriching as possible for its users. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we're a resource for you all. So anything that we can do to make the process easier, we will certainly try our best.
Thank you.
Yes, our job is to scaffold you, and we all love our jobs. So please use us. And we'll let Lena answer this next question.
Great. We had a question. Is Sora a library management system? Can it report, overdue collections, classroom management, or is it just borrowing only? So Sora is a digital library itself. So it is a platform where, students can borrow titles and, check them out, read them in the app. We do have student reading data that is available on the back end for administrators to view, but it's not a library management system. It's more of a digital library itself that has some of the benefits of digital, like that, assignment feature and, student reading data that I could talk about for hours, but you can really dive in and get granular with.
I have a question about the gamification elements that you guys talked about earlier. This is such a fun thing. I know that especially for some age groups, getting that sticker is such a great motivation, such a fantastic encouragement to continue reading and be rewarded maybe for stretching their reading boundaries. And coming from the public library world, it reminds me so much of the summer reading programs that we're doing these days. Is this access to Sora and that kind of a gamification element something that would be available to students who have access to technology throughout the summer as well as during the school year?
Yes, Sora is available all year round, over any breaks, over summer. Students can access their digital collection whenever. If they have a device at home, they can read at home on that device. And everything syncs between devices on Sora. So if they, are reading a book on their school device and they go home and they have a device at home, once they open it back up, it'll automatically sync their position in that book, and they can continue reading at home.
So this sounds
Oh, I'm
great.
sorry.
Summer, you could even do like a summer classroom read for like, get ready for 5th grade. We're going to all read this book over the summer. So, yeah.
You're setting me up perfectly, Heather. We have a summer reading program that I just wrapped up choosing the titles for. Publishers provide them for Overdrive. It's called Sora Sweet Reads, and they are simultaneous use titles for the summer for students. And we got some phenomenal submissions this year from publishers, including Abrams. It's not a Wimpy Kid, but it's a Rowley Jefferson book. So we have all kinds of titles available, free simultaneous use for schools, unlimited users during the summer months so that students stay connected to digital.
And that collection is free.
It's free, and it will go live. I'm not positive about the dates. I should know, but this cold is fogging my brain, but it's coming soon.
We have a few technical questions. Amanda asks, since Sora and Libby are both Overdrive products, is there a way to make a connection between the school Sora account and the public library's Libby account?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We're also eager to answer these questions because we love talking about Sora. Yes, students can, if they have a public library card, they can add it in Sora, where in the demo we showed that you can add multiple libraries. So, that's one option. If they have a public library card, they can enter it themselves and have access to those titles through the public library in Sora. However, you have the option of designating which level of titles students can access in Sora, even if it's through the public library. So you can designate, your K through 8 kids can see the juvenile content through the public library, and your high schoolers can see the young adult content through the public library. We also have a program that makes it really easy for students to access those public library titles in Sora. It's called Public Library Connect, where both the school and the library sign off on it, where students can sign in to the public library using their school credentials. So it removes that barrier of having to have a public library card to access the titles that are available through the public library. But talk to your account manager, and they would be, or your Sora team, they would be happy to help you get set up with this.
That's just fantastic. There's a library near me that has that set up, and I think it's just a fantastic way to connect between the public and the school libraries, and keep the kids engaged and just indicate to them that there is a community of support around them, around their reading needs and interests all year long, whether or not they're going to school every day or if they're, if they're home for a break.
One of my favorite features too with Sora and adding a library is in your search results, it will all show up on one page. So like you usually have to go between your different libraries if you have more than one. So not in Sora. Sora will just have everything there. And it will tell you this is from your school collection, this is from the public library. So it's very, very seamless for the kiddos.
That's fantastic. Lana, can you answer the question about the define a word? What other ways can we access those features?
Yes, absolutely. So in all those definitions in Sora that I showed in the demo, you can export all of the words that have been defined from your Sora account into a PDF, into Google Drive or a CSV file. And then once you have that file, you can print it, absolutely, so students can have the physical copy of those words that they have defined in Sora.
That's such a useful thing, and this is something I wasn't aware of until this program today. The way that you can manipulate that information. I've used digital, ebooks for years, and I'll make these little notes, and then they seem to like float in the ether. But what a great way to bring that back to a teachable moment and have kids be able to see their notes and share those with their classmates. If they're in a reading circle, they can all take what they learned and noted during their personal reading and then bring it back to the classroom. All right. Don't see any more questions coming in. So we've talked a lot about both classroom use and library use. How are librarians that you're working with making those connections to teachers? Like, what can you give us some examples or talk a little bit about how the librarians who might be on the webinar today can connect with the teachers in their school to demonstrate the usefulness of this?
Usually the one I hear the most from my partners as kind of their gateway to teachers into Sora is the magazines, especially for those STEM and social studies. It's an easy way for them to be like, oh, there is content in there that I can use. And then that just leads to more engagement and everything like that. So that's kind of the most common one that I see from partners.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest roadblocks is that a lot of teachers, or at least that I've heard, is a lot of teachers don't realize that the titles they use can be accessible in a digital format. So again, if you can like provide us a list of those ELA titles, or even any supplemental titles for other classes, and we can bring that to the teacher and show them that they're available and readily accessible, I think that's a huge win.
And even with our like class set lending model, it's not what you would think of as a physical class set. There are only 2 publishers that require a minimum purchase. The rest you can literally purchase 1 or 2 copies for that classroom's supplemental stuff. So there is a lot of flexibility with it too that I think teachers just aren't aware of on the back end because they aren't in marketplace. They aren't working with it on a daily basis, things like that, which is where we can come in and tell them, oh yeah, you can definitely use it for that. And so again, make use of us. We're here to help you. We can provide training to your teachers for free. We do it all the time. So reach out to your Sora team for sure.
One main strategy I hear, the big gateway into teachers really, using Sora and becoming aware of it, is through audiobooks. Students who request an audio copy of the book that they're reading in class is definitely a main way you can make that connection between the librarian and the teachers. But a lot of my successful librarian partners go into classrooms and they work with the ELA teachers to, provide Sora to the students to really promote it in the classroom as well. So those are a few ways as well.
Yeah, having that audiobook to listen along as you read can be just a real game changer for a lot of kids. I'm also thinking about just the shared classroom library essentially that we have, where it's not like these are the 15 books that are in, this teacher's room. We've got to guard them, make sure that they don't wander around the school. Now it's something that we can share. It's a resource shared throughout the school. So, just a real economical way to do that. And speaking of economics and cost, Lena, would you like to answer the question about cost as a barrier?
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for your question of, you think cost could be a barrier. We really can get creative and flexible with your budget. If you have a set budget, our digital content librarians are such whizzes with working around the budget, really utilizing those different licensing models or the lending models as we refer to them internally, because they are, really an option with digital as opposed to print. There's really one way you can purchase books. You don't have the option of renting. So we can work around your budget to definitely make it work for you. In some states where, school budget is an issue, we've even started statewide shared collections where students it's a creative way to give students access to more titles by, purchasing really as a group. So definitely talk with your Sora team and we can definitely be creative and help you, overcome that barrier.
Yeah, it's really great to know that that's a possibility that, whatever the budget is, there is a way to work with Sora. Just this morning, I was listening to a news story about how a lot of emergency pandemic funding is running out in schools, and that's a huge concern. And so for all of those students who have found this to be useful over the past 5 years, we want to be sure to continue providing digital access to content that's important to them, important to their teachers. So yeah, please, I'm encouraging everyone to use these wonderful librarian resources that you have at Sora.
And remember different funding buckets. I'm working with 2 strategic accounts whose ESSER funding is dwindling. That the AIM group has funding for accessibility, for audiobooks, for something called read-alongs that we did demonstrate that pairs text with professional narration. There are all kinds of options in Sora held up under all kinds of screen reader tests. So there are different ways to attack this. And again, your Sora team is happy to strategize with you.
Lana, would you like to answer this question from Chris about connecting with Sora through a district?
Yeah, so Chris asked who would be the person at a district to connect with Sora. We work with all different types of educators. We work, primarily with librarians a lot because we are a, type of library platform. But, since we are a reading platform, we work with teachers, administrators, English as a second language, the special education department. So, really, we can work with anybody in your district depending on what your intended use is for Sora. So I would recommend just getting that first, point of contact set up between yourself and your Sora account team manager. They can explore maybe who or what your intended use is for Sora, and then you can connect them with the right person. But we are always happy to meet with anybody from your school or district.
So we've talked a lot about, how Sora can be used by teachers, used by librarians, and the support that's there for teachers and librarians. I wondered if anybody could speak to what your experiences it has been with students being introduced to Sora. Does there tend to be a learning curve? Are there supplemental instructional materials on how to use it? Or do you find that students are able to, these digital natives kind of intuitively navigate?
I'll just throw in a quick anecdote. We added magazines to a large school district in California. This must have been pre-pandemic even, before they all became serious digital natives. And before we even introduced it to the school or rolled it out, the most checked out thing in that collection was the Minecraft magazine. They found it, so they know what to do. Sora is infinitely user friendly, and it's never a problem with the students, at least not in my experience.
And like I mentioned, my almost 5-year-old is using Sora independently at this point. I just set up her filters and she's good to go. She knows how to borrow. She knows how to go back to the beginning of a book, how to play narration, all of that. But if for introducing students to Sora, we do have like how-to videos directed specifically towards students on our resource center, as well as like different marketing materials like social media posts, flyers, things like that.
We have a fantastic training team here at Overdrive, both for the public libraries and for education side. So no matter where you're coming to us, we have resources for you.
I love that story about the Minecraft magazine. I feel like it really just speaks to the reality that the kids are eager for content, and they're just waiting for us to provide it to them. And how great that they found that really fun resource through this school app to kind of, help them understand how to navigate it. And now Sora is their buddy because it gave them Minecraft, and now it can also give them the classroom resources that teachers and administrators want them to have. All right, are we seeing any more? Oh, is playing narration as easy as a quick button? That's great for special needs students and struggling readers in ELL. Also, does it highlight the word as it reads to you?
Read-alongs are a specific format, which can be searched for in Marketplace. And it does, it literally is a play button. You hit play, it goes. I will say that most books do highlight. There can be some accessibilities with contrast that our accessibility team has been looking at. And then for students who use screen readers, we have functionality for that as well.
That's so great. That's just such a nice, accessibility, but also as a reading scaffolding. And also, if you lose your place, you want to follow along, and all of a sudden you get swept away in the narration and you want to come back to the print. That's a helpful tool.
Yes, and there's a button filter in Sora where you can just click show me all the read-alongs. So it's very accessible to find in Sora itself. You can filter just to show that type of book.
I will say at this point, our catalog is mostly read-alongs for like the elementary school level. We do have some like high-low books for middle school, high school that are read-alongs, but that is something as we talk with our publishers about like what are we looking for, that is something that we've brought up is we want to see more higher level books in read-along format.
So the read-alongs, are those narrated, is the narration from that the same voice as you would hear if you were listening to the audiobook production of it, or is there a different way that those audios are produced?
Think of those book and CD combos we used to have in school. Like my daughter loves the Disney ones, and those are usually narrated by like the voice actors of the movie with someone else doing like the non-dialogue text. So they are professionally recorded, like an audiobook would be.
That's
And
fantastic. Yeah.
like audiobooks, some are better than others and some are more elaborate. productions. The Star Wars ones have sound effects and everything. We had one in the Summer Sweet Reads last year, and they're phenomenal. So, but you can play a sample in Marketplace and look at it before you purchase it. So
That's so great to know. I know that AI voices is a huge issue with audiobook narration right now. So it's wonderful to know that the functionality of the read along is still supporting audiobook narrators who are, bringing their full artistry to that craft and just really emotionally connecting with the text. I think that's a useful tool for students as well to hear.
and we've talked to our friends in publishing, and they're going to add that field into how we ingest digital content to differentiate whether it's a human voice or an AI generated voice. So at some point, we'll be able to differentiate even further for the people that need that.
That's great. Well, we are already at 2:00, and I'm going to just end with this lovely comment from Barbara, who just says that she's so grateful for the invaluable sources of knowledge that the Sora librarians have. It's an incredible reading product for schools. Lots of successes there. Any additional questions will be forwarded along to the Overdrive team. I want to thank you all so much. This is very informative, very helpful. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and all of these great ideas. Tomorrow, attendees, all of you will receive an email that contains links to today's video recording, the slide presentation, and a certificate of completion. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit our website, booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for some of the upcoming ones like those that you see listed here. If you are headed to PLA in Columbus, which is my favorite library conference, then stop by the Booklist booth. Booklist is going to be at 1317, and we'll have free copies of our magazines, Booklist Reader, and the Guide to Graphic Novels, book giveaways, tote bags, buttons, and a reader recommendation wheel. Plus, don't forget to attend our book buzz on Thursday, April 4th at 2:00 Eastern, featuring your favorite adult publishers buzzing about upcoming hits. We do hope to see you there. If you have staff training, in-services, or local conferences, Booklist can help. You can now request free copies of Booklist and our patron-facing product, the Booklist Reader, for upcoming staff training programs, so you can help the next generation of library workers become readers advisory and collection development superstars. Scan this QR code on the screen or visit our website or email info@booklistonline.com for more details. Thank you all so much for joining us for today's webinar. A huge thank you to all of our panelists, to our sponsor, Sora. And today, we are finished for today. This concludes the webinar. We will see you next time.